sad milestone in an East Tennessee missing child investigation that has captured national attention. Summer Wells has been missing for 1,000 days.
The story of Summer Wells has never left the public's heart. Even after all these years, her name carries a weight that feels almost supernatural, as if her absence sits in the air like the remnants of a storm that never fully passed. People still whisper her name, still search for her face, still study every movement of those involved, hoping one day the truth will finally rise to the surface. The case didn't fade. It transformed into something larger, something that pulled in the attention of millions around the world, creating a mixture of hope, fear, confusion, and determination. And today, the mystery surrounding her disappearance has taken another shocking turn, one that left even the most seasoned followers of this investigation asking deeper, harder questions. Because when a 5-year-old vanishes from her own home, from a hill she knew like the back of her hand, the world expects answers. But answers never came. Instead, over 4 years passed in a fog of silence, speculation, and partial truths. And when the recent search operation exploded across social media, the world froze. A 27-acre property on Van Hill Road was raided by authorities in a way that felt too deliberate to be random, and too public to be accidental. Helicopters overturned the sky, and agents moved with a kind of urgency that suggested something concrete had finally surfaced. This wasn't the usual quiet search, hidden from the cameras. This one was loud. This one was visible. This one was impossible to ignore. People asked why the authorities would suddenly open their doors to the media after years of saying nothing. Why this location? Why now? Why allow cameras to capture a property connected in multiple ways to individuals familiar with the Wells family? And why did FBI vehicles appear on the scene so quickly, with agents moving as though they had been waiting for this exact moment? Rumors swirled instantly. Some said a breakthrough had finally arrived. Others insisted it could be a misunderstanding or a dead end. But the most unsettling part was the timing. Thousands of people online watched the scene unfold and wondered if these movements had been prompted by a tip too strong to ignore. Something significant must have been found or said for agencies to coordinate a search of this scale. The Van Hill property became the center of every conversation, every live stream, every late-night theory board. People felt fear. People felt hope. People felt anger. But no one felt indifferent. And as the footage spread, the public's focus turned sharply toward one particular possibility, that evidence, maybe biological, maybe environmental, maybe physical, had been discovered that linked Summer to the location. Officials didn't confirm anything, but their body language told its own story. Serious faces. Tension around the eyes. Clipped responses to reporters. The kind of behavior that tells you there is more happening behind the scenes than anyone is allowed to say. Just before the first minute of this investigation passed, when viewers were already glued to their screens, drawn in by the weight of the mystery, a natural pause came over the story, making it the perfect moment to say this. If you are watching right now, take a second to like, share, and subscribe so you can follow every update as this story unfolds in real time. Your engagement helps push this investigation into the public light, where it must remain until answers are finally revealed. But the moment that ended, the investigation plunged deeper. People online were obsessed with the sudden transparency. Why was this search shown to the world after years of secrecy? Why allow cameras to witness agents moving through the brush, digging, examining, and photographing? Some believe investigators were sending a message. Others claim they wanted specific individuals to feel the pressure, to sense the tightening circle. And then some think authorities wanted the public to know that something credible had been brought forward, something they could no longer dismiss or delay. The property belonged to someone linked to people who had been in the periphery of the Summer Wells story for a long time. Not directly guilty of anything, not officially accused, but connected in unsettling ways, socially, relationally, geographically. The kind of connection that doesn't prove guilt but raises enough questions to keep investigators awake at night. And just like that, the online world erupted again. Debates turned into storm fronts that crashed across platforms. Hashtags trended. Voices clashed. Some users defended the individuals associated with the property, insisting the raid meant nothing. Others grew more suspicious, fueled by past behavior, inconsistencies, and comments that never sat right with them. And between those extremes hovered the silent majority, people who didn't want to accuse anyone but couldn't ignore the mounting coincidences. Something changed during those hours. The case didn't feel stagnant anymore. It felt alive. Moving. Shifting. And with that shift came a flood of unresolved questions. What exactly led authorities to that specific location? Who provided the tip? How long had investigators been waiting for this moment? Did they find something that suggested Summer had once been there? And if so, why wasn't the public told more clearly? The mystery deepened further when experts began discussing the types of forensic tests that might be happening behind closed doors. DNA examination, soil analysis, trace evidence comparisons, time-consuming processes that could take weeks or even months. Which meant the silence wasn't a sign of nothing happening. It was a sign of everything happening. And that silence grew louder, heavier, more oppressive, as each hour passed without an official update. People refreshed their feeds constantly, searching for new information. Rumors of a major discovery started circulating everywhere, each one unverified, each one adding another layer of tension. Some people swore they knew what was found. Others insisted nothing was found at all. And between them lay the truth, still hidden, still locked behind the sealed lips of investigators. But the emotional reaction of the public wasn't just about the search. It was about the people at the center of the story. Every move they made, every interview they gave, every comment they posted became another piece of a puzzle that never fit neatly together. Some followers defended them passionately, saying the weight of grief affects everyone differently. Others saw inconsistency, deflection, or unusual calmness where devastating fear should have been. And that conflict, between those who sympathized and those who questioned, created one of the most polarized communities the true crime world has ever seen. The deeper people dug, the more tangled the web became. Some highlighted behaviors seemed out of place. Others focused on timelines that didn't align perfectly, stories that changed slightly over time, emotions that didn't match expectations, or reactions that appeared practiced rather than raw. And whether these observations were fair or unfair, one thing became undeniable. The public was no longer just watching the investigation, they were participating in it. Social media became a battlefield of perception. Clips circulated showing interviews, live streams, statements, and arguments. Comments poured in by the hundreds of thousands, dissecting tone, body language, pauses, and expressions. People claimed they could see guilt. Others saw only pain. Some said they detected rehearsed phrases. Others insisted they heard the truth. A single eyebrow raise could trigger hours of debate. A sigh could launch a new theory. A moment of stillness could be interpreted as calm or apathy or trauma, or guilt. And as new information leaked, the narrative shifted again. Witnesses stepped forward claiming details that hadn't been publicly confirmed before. Some claimed to have seen suspicious movements. Others spoke of unusual behavior leading up to the disappearance. And though none of these claims were officially verified, they spread across the internet like wildfire, each one adding more shadows to the already darkened landscape. Then came the most haunting part. Several experts compared this unfolding situation to other long-term missing child cases. They pointed to patterns. They pointed to delayed breakthroughs. They pointed to suspects identified years before arrests were made. One case, in particular, was mentioned repeatedly, where authorities waited nearly 2 years before releasing critical information that had been known behind the scenes from the beginning. And suddenly, people began to wonder if the Summer Wells case was at the same stage. Maybe investigators knew far more than they could legally reveal. Maybe everything was already in motion. Maybe this sudden public search was the beginning of the end. But still, the biggest questions remained unanswered. Why that property? What evidence led them there? What are investigators not saying? And is someone out there feeling the pressure, feeling the walls close in, feeling the truth creeping closer and closer? Because every person connected to the case felt the shift. Some grew quiet. Some grew defensive. Some appeared suddenly cooperative. Others suddenly withdrew. The public noticed everything. Every pause. Every change in tone. Every new silence. Every willingness to talk. And as people observed these shifts, they created theories, some logical, some wild, some inspired, some fearful. Through all this, though, a deeper emotional thread held people together. Summer's story was never just about mystery. It was about the innocence of a child whose life was interrupted in the cruelest, most confusing way. It was about hope refusing to die. It was about a community refusing to forget her, refusing to let her name fade into the endless archive of cold cases. It was about strangers forming connections across the world, united by a shared determination to one day know the truth. And even in the chaos, even in the online battles and emotional eruptions, there was something undeniably beautiful. People cared. They cared enough to watch every update, to analyze every movement, to argue passionately, to pray, to hope, to question, to fight for a child they never met. It showed that humanity, even at its most conflicted, still carries a powerful instinct to protect. But the emotional weight grows heavier every time another question appears without an answer. It grows heavier when investigators remain silent. It grows heavier each time someone online claims to have new information that turns out to be false. People start to feel a kind of fatigue, a kind of emotional erosion, wondering how long the search for truth will continue and whether justice will ever be served. Still, scattered among the confusion are moments of clarity. Moments where the truth seems close enough to touch. Moments where investigative decisions reveal more than the public realizes. When agents appear in unexpected places. When they request specific records. When they revisit timelines with fresh urgency. When they follow up with individuals who were once dismissed. All these moments create a rhythm, a pulse, a heartbeat that tells the world, the investigation is not cold. It is very much alive. And as long as it's alive, there is hope. Hope that the evidence found will speak. Hope that witnesses will gain the courage to come forward. Hope that the secrecy will break. Hope that the truth will finally breathe. Even now, as more whispers echo through the online world, the public senses something shifting. Some believe arrests could come. Others believe more searches will follow. Some believe investigators already know the truth but are preparing the final steps. And through it all, the question continues to echo through homes, live streams, comment sections, and hearts. What happened to Summer Wells? Who knows more than they've said? What truth has been buried beneath fear, loyalty, or guilt? And how much longer until the answers finally rise to the surface? As this investigation continues to unfold, the world watches with breath held tight. The next update could change everything. The next leak could rewrite the narrative. The next search could bring the truth that has been hidden for too long. So stay here, stay alert, stay engaged, and stay connected. Because this story is still moving, still shifting, still revealing, and still fighting to be understood. And the next chapter may hold the breakthrough everyone has been waiting for. What are they hiding? And what will the next revelation bring?